During that time, we own a restaurant, we own a hotel, we own everything that you name, we own. It's an amazing thing. The guy had a drive-in theater, where black drive-in theater, and white people start coming to this drive-in theater. It was right there on Highway 17, west of the Ashley, and it was against the law for blacks to go to a white drive-in theater, but it was not against the law for whites to come to the black drive-in theater, which was okay because we never wanted to be segregated like that anyway. But the cops started coming at the black guy that owned this drive-in theater and said that, you gotta stop letting these white people come in here or we're gonna close your theater down. And this was one of the guys that I ended up being in partnership in the radio station, and because these guys were really smart back in those days. He said, officer, said, when did black people get the right to tell white people they can go? That was the end of that discussion. Instead of what the young people do now, they get into a big argument, get the head whipped and all kinds of stuff. These guys always had an answer to deal with whatever was facing them at that particular time. We did all our own medicine, delivered our own babies. I mean, whatever we needed, we did. And we got to a point in the 60s where we decided that some folk wanted to do integration. I fought against integration. I knew that integration was going to be the worst thing that happened to black people. And the black people beat me up. The black leaders would have beaten on me that I've never recovered from, because they thought that integration would have been the key to the survival. And I saw integration as, again, getting rid of black teachers. You were disciplined. So that sort of that's a very bad blow to the whole autonomy situation. So there's just a lot of things that has gone on to stop my people, African American, especially where I live, from being autonomous. You just can't do that anymore. And I think we are in a position right now that's worse than I'm 72 years old, and it's worse than I've ever seen it, because we have no power at all in the school system. We have nobody in the school system. We got 55% of the kids in Charleston County are black. We have not had one person in a power position that can make good decisions about what's going on in school. And our kids are getting kicked out of school more than any other group. And everybody is saying that they're being kicked out of school because they're bad. We as African Americans have to set one of these rules. Either we were born from God, created by God bad, or something wrong with this doggone system. Those are the two choices. And if we're not going to deal with those choices, we're going to continue to suffer. My position, and I think my 7 minutes is probably about up, but my position is that if we take a look at where we were historically, we got a chance to do a little bit as it relates to education, very little as it relates to economics. We got a few blacks that have been able to get elected to public office. We got a few blacks that have been able to get very, very, very good jobs, but they're very few. The rest of the folk are not doing that well. And most of the people that are out there fighting, the black community, when we were talking about autonomy, it was about we. It was about us. Right. Now we've gotten to the point that we just like our enemies, we're about me. How am I going to get the best for me? And anytime you get to that point, you begin to lose. Thank you.
I'd like to thank everybody very much for coming to speak. I've really enjoyed it so far. My question, and I'm not going to pose it to anyone in particular, just whoever would like to respond, but in all the talk about forming groups, how would you tell your specific community or explain best to them that it's not an us against them type of group? Because from a lot of what I've heard, I'm sure that there are certain people who could misconstrue it, as Queen Quet was saying earlier, not a lot of cultural understanding, but also between the minorities, but also between the minorities and the majority. So to try and put it a little more succinctly, how would you explain that the alliances you're building are not against the majority, or are they?
I was going to say who said it wasn't. I think it all depends on what alliances you're talking about, because sometimes they are against. I mean, it's like Elder Carly Town, our Minister of Information for the Gullah Geechee Nation, is here tonight, and she used to work in corporate America and picked up this phrase, I think there, not from Gullah Geechees, about a win-win. And that annoys me. Because a lot of times I'm like, every situation is not something where both people are going to win, you know? I mean, somebody's going to win and somebody's going to lose. That's just the reality thing to it. So there are, in alliance forming, I feel like it's not a matter of telling someone one group is not against the other. I feel it all boils down to what Mr. Saunders was saying, essentially, is we're all saying the same thing, but you're fighting over the methodology. I think what you need to do is know what you're fighting for, period, and stand on it. And don't even waste the energy talking about whether you're against them, who was them, then you got to find them, then you got to do a study to know who the them was to be defined. Don't even do that. It's a waste. Stand on the common ground and then move forward. That's what I do.
You know,
and I do use that phrase win-win. And it's because I really believe in self-determination. I believe that we have a right to do what's best for our community. And you have a right to do what's best for your community. And I kind of like look at it this way. I'll mind my own business, you mind yours. But we can all still come together in dialogue and find out what's best for the community. So that's the way I see it.
For me, community means it unifies you what you have in common. Otherwise, you're just neighbors. Because a neighbor can live next to you, never know their name. You just see them come and go. You only know they're going forever when you just don't see their car moving in and out anymore and the curtains are going from the window, right? So we want a global community. We have to find more unifying things in common. And I think that's what you're looking at in the center of that. And I think that's the only time laws will start to realign themselves with more of a universal picture and moral law, like what I talked about that Wikipedia had in there under autonomy. Yeah.
You know, I would like to just respond. Never happened to me in this country is legal. Nothing bad never happened to me in this country that was not legal. Slavery was legal.
Right.
Segregation was legal.
Right.
I went to Korea, got wounded, was fighting for freedom for Korean, and couldn't ride in the same train from California to South Carolina with the white guys that I fought with. But it was legal.
So a prayer say, Hana learn a little bit about what is going on in the Gullah Geechee Nation. And definitely, if this episode has caused you to think about that word autonomy, and you want to have some discussion with us, look for us on Facebook, MySpace, and even Twitter, the Gullah Geechee Nation and Gullah Geechee, and you'll find me. Definitely send us a word to the Gullah Geechee Sea Island Coalition at GULLGEECO@AOL.com, or to our producers for this program at AMP@AOL.com. So we'd love to hear from you and hear your views, and also let us know if one of the Gullah Geechee and things like that and something is going on with one community, let we know so we can have on this your Gullah Geechee TV, Nayshun News. Me glad say one of the tune in for Yeti, this your head on the body, crack your teeth for a little while. This your, the me, Queen Quet, coming live from the Gullah Geechee Nation. We thank her for joining me, cause this your the what going on.